On the night of the February 13th special election, a $117 million Eastmont School construction bond sat at 58.83% voter approval. In Washington state, a school construction bond needs to pass a 60% supermajority threshold. As days passed and more ballots were counted, the bond would eventually fail at 59.56% voter approval.
Every day when they had a new ballot count, I thought, this is going to be it, this is going to be it, this is going to be it. And then when the rate of improvement slowed, it still improved, but it slowed. And then our experts were telling us to go get a good night's rest because it's likely not going to pass. Then that's exactly what I think we did as a team.
The bond aimed to modernize Cascade, Kenroy, and Lee elementary schools and construct a single point of entry and replace the roof and HVAC systems at Rock Island Elementary School. The bond would also upgrade safety, security, and accessibility at all schools around the district. The bond didn't officially fail until February 23rd. By then, the district already decided to give it another try to achieve the 60%. It became clear after the third ballot count a week before the results were certified that the bond may not have enough votes to pass. After learning the bond results were still under 60%, Superintendent Becky Berg was encouraged by her staff to consider running it again during the special election in April.
By the end of that day, we had basically consulted with everyone we need to consult, our bond attorney, our finance people, our architects, everybody involved in this, and everyone was thinking, yes, April makes sense. So then, of course, it's a board decision. So then we called the board and told them what we were thinking of.
You never want to waste taxpayer money for going through a process, an election process. So that would be one concern, to have the same outcome as the February ballot here in April. So that would be a concern. But I think we have some really good ideas in place on how to make that not happen, to make it cross the victory line. I think we're all very committed to improving the facilities here at the district, and so the fact that staff was so enthusiastic about that possibility, and that we were so close, obviously the board was unanimous in the decision to go ahead and put it back out on the April ballot.
This is not the first time in recent years that the district has seen a bond fail. In 2022, an Eastmont School construction bond aimed to fix a lot. 4 aging elementary schools and Sterling Junior High would be renovated, athletic facilities would be updated, and they'd have a new transportation center. The $185 million bond went on to fail during the November election that year. Only 51% of voters approved the measure. It was the bond from 2022 that informed the one on ballots this year. After the 2022 failure, the district surveyed voters, which helped them understand what the top priorities were. It was determined that Cascade, Kenroy, and Lee schools were most in need of rebuilding, and Rock Island also needed some improvements. Participants agreed the athletic facilities needed upgrades, but not through increasing taxes. The transportation center was also deemed a nice-to-have and not an immediate need. That input is what helped the district narrow down what they wanted to focus on with the February and now April bond. Should this bond pass in April, the tax rate is projected to remain the same as in 2023. The district paid off a capital levy in 2023, and the new bond would replace that tax in 2025. The 2023 combined tax rate was $2.92 per $1,000 of assessed property value. There is a chance that this rate can decrease as new construction and houses are built, and especially as Microsoft begins to move into the area. This bond also generates an additional $27 million in state matching funds. All eyes now watch the April 23rd special election to see if the district can maintain high voter approval and get the votes needed to pass the bond.
None of us take these decisions lightly, whether it's the staff crafting a proposal for the board or the board weighing in. Eastmont has a strong reputation of being moderate with expenses, having a good rainy day fund, not asking for the moon, and we want to live up to that reputation, as well as just the moral imperative of being responsible to the taxpayers. So I think we're at the place now where these are all needs, not wants, and we're putting our kids first.
In an attempt to learn more about the building conditions that would be addressed by the bond, NCWLIFE was granted access to all 4 schools over a several-hour period on January 16th. As we were given tours of each school, we learned more about how the buildings are posing challenges to the students and staff inside. During filming, a bitter cold was freezing north central Washington. That week, it was too cold for Eastmont students to go outside for recess. For kids at Cascade and Kenroy schools, they need to go outside anyway if they were going to the library or cafeteria. Both schools were built in a series of buildings, and every classroom has an exterior door that leads to their breezeways.
My classroom is currently at 58 degrees, which is too cold for students. And so when we're getting lined up to go to specialists and everything, you think of that exterior door that has to be opened up to the 4-degree weather outside. And that's just making it even colder. The kids are cold in class right now. And so we're bundled up and wearing our coats all day. But it'd be nice to be in a building where when it does get cold, the system can keep up and keep our kids warm. And then the same thing happens in the spring. It gets very hot in our classrooms. And again, that causes a challenge for learning and teaching.
Classroom doors remain locked at all times. When students are coming and going throughout the day, it becomes a disruption to the class with a lot of up and down happening to let them back in. There are several doors in each class, and the teachers describe their uneasy feeling knowing there are so many entrances to the classrooms.
We have lots of doors. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 doors just in my classroom. And so to me, that's more of a safety thing. We have 2 glass doors that are exterior doors. And then our hallway door is also a glass door. So when we do drills or anything of that nature, we need to make sure all of them are locked up. And then we have to basically try to get out of the path of a glass door. So with recent times, you think about safety and where would we put the kids and how would we actually do it? Because when it was built, we didn't have to think about things like that. If someone were to get in one door, they have access to the entire pod. So when we do drills and things, we've had staff meeting after staff meeting trying to problem solve to keep kids safe. If it were real, what would we do? But all of the doors, if one is unlocked, then they gain access to the entire pod, which is unnerving.
Additional challenges to the outdoor hallways include the uneven walkway, which poses extra challenges for students with physical disabilities.
2 years ago, I had 2 kids in wheelchairs. And when you think about just going to PE or to library or to lunch, they would go out and it was really challenging to get the wheelchairs over any of it on a regular day, but then when it snowed, it would delay all of the time, at least 5 minutes for every single transition throughout the day. So that's a huge challenge for kiddos that have wheelchairs or crutches or anything, whether it's temporary or permanent.
Cascade principal Trevor Summers, who gave us a tour around the building, told us about how a student in a wheelchair was injured due to the conditions of the pavement.
Like we had huge cracks in between the cement and the asphalt here where their wheels got stuck, and we had one student fall and get injured. And so maintenance does a great job. They patch it, but it's just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. You know, the facilities are in an age where it's really hard to keep up and maintain it to make sure it's safe for all of our kids.
Cascade students and teachers utilize the whole school, and that often means making makeshift instructional spaces out of anywhere they can.
We have to create like small group work in like essentially hallways. So this table, and every pod has this. This is where our kids get a lot of their special education services, and you can see the lighting's not great and the space isn't great. It's not conducive for learning, and yet this is where we're having kids get extra support. And this is just the best that we can offer just because of the way that the building's made up. And we don't have any extra space. There's no open classrooms. There's no additional areas that aren't being utilized by staff and students all the time.
Inside the staff room, Summers took us to the small corner that is designated as the nurse's station.
This is where we're trying to get our nurse some privacy to make phone calls, which you can see is pretty rudimentary as far as offering a nice workspace for, you know, a nurse that's super vital to our kids and families.
Summers also took us through the gymnasium, the floor of which he said basketballs hardly bounce on, to another intervention room that is inside the gym.
For her to work with our kids, she has to go and get them and often walk them all the way through, walk them through a gym to bring them in here to work with them to give them extra support and then walk them back, which again, not the most efficient or productive way to do things. You might think, well, it's, what is it, a minute or two to walk, but when you do 2 minutes each way, 4 minutes every day, that's 20 minutes a week times 180 days, it adds up. We're looking at significant loss of learning just because we have to walk to go get students to bring them in because we don't have facilities to to properly house them.
Between Cascade, Kenroy, and Lee, hundreds of students are taught inside portables due to the lack of space inside their building. Portables, meant to be a temporary solution, have become permanent fixtures at the schools. The oldest portables are on Lee's campus and were built in 1989 according to Eastmont's facilities dashboard, making them 35 years old. Douglas Cornwell, a Lee teacher, said they house all the 5th and 6th grade classrooms.
They're fine for what they are, but again, they're supposed to be temporary, and these have kind of become permanent for quite a while. Issues that we have with them, the pipes freeze fairly easily. The HVAC units, again, like they have a hard time, so we have to watch these. A lot of our I was going to say what you call them, like a deck, what the steps that go up to there, they're mostly ramps, and we've got a few steps, but they're slowly falling apart, and things are there. We got rust around the doors. So with the new bond plan, I know that they were looking to get rid of our portables and have these be full-time brick and mortar classrooms. So I mean, they are what they are, and they house kids and they do a good job, but they're past their prime. Like to get into the building, we have to go through here, which again is another big safety issue, is having to walk, from the building into here, because then we have to, because we have locked doors, you have to somehow get a key pass, to someone who gets in, and then if that disappears, we have to, reset our security thing. So another thing is just keeping kids safe is, spending like less time out in these breezeways and that, and also we're wide open to the community in there, and anybody who kind of walks through and that. Like we have a closed campus and we keep a good eye on that, but you're out in the open, and so anybody can kind of stroll through.
At Lee, it isn't uncommon to see portable units tasked with heating or cooling an entire room. Cornwell told us that the HVAC systems in the building are so old they can't find parts for them anymore. The freezing temperatures in the days leading up to filming were putting stress on the deteriorating systems.
This room right here, we came in and there was a really strong smell of smoke and that, and so we went and checked it out. And again, it's just this cold weather, these old systems, trying to keep up with it, but we had 2 classrooms that smelled not the best. We had to relocate one to another room for a while, while we aired everything out, and we brought the people in, and they, did their best to get them up and working the best they could to make kids comfortable, because that's a big thing here at school is, we have to provide them a safe, warm place to be, because if you're not safe and warm, you don't do a lot of learning.
Cornwell works with students who have sensory issues, and his old classroom offered them a quiet space where they could go to decompress. His new room, which he was still moving into, was once a stage area.
If you want to take a kid, who is sensitive to noise and that, doesn't work as well. We've got our gym over here and our music rooms next door. So any given day you might have drums playing in here, and music playing over there, and that's just kind of how it is. And we can do certain things, with the lighting and that, we usually turn that lighting on, turn the stage lighting on. We can, decrease that sensory input. We can, in the other place it was pretty quiet anyway, but we do have earphones and stuff that they can put on. The bilingual room was considered to go up here, but they have to be able to, hear words and accents and, with pronunciations, and just with the different amounts of noise, it just wasn't going to be doable for them. Like the kids couldn't hear in that. So we kind of bit the bullet and came up here and kind of let them use the other one just so, they could have that room for academic time.
Our tour of Kenroy with Assistant Principal Erin Coyle began in the kitchen, where she explained that the school is now unable to cook meals on campus.
Also just recently had the fire marshal require us to remove the stove because we lack a exhaust vent as a commercial kitchen. So we're no longer able to warm up food or cook food. Our kitchen staff has to go down to another building and drive it up here. And they still manage to serve how many meals a day, Selene?
Right now we're at an average of about
330 meals a day. When we did have our oven though, what were we serving?
About 100 more than that.
About 100 more. So the fact that we're unable to cook our food on site has really impacted our ability to get hot meals to kids.
Same story for breakfast.
Same story for breakfast. We do run breakfast after the bell here, so all kids are able to grab a hot meal, and then they go to their classrooms and they sit down and get to eat. And how many breakfasts were we doing? That was
we were close to 400 right now. We
400 a day?
Close to 300.
So we again dropped to another 100. So the fact that we can't provide quality meals is, you can't learn when you're hungry.
Outside, Coyle took us to where there is a fence of orange tape where a portable once stood. The portable, which was once used for intervention support, was damaged by a fire in April of last year. The floors of the breezeways are lined to help guide students, but the hallways are noticeably noisier due to the HVAC systems.
I don't know why, but all of the vents, all of the HVAC vents, vent right out into the main breezeway. So it's incredibly loud when you're giving directions, like to littles, like trying to walk. And they line the whole, I think they put them on the roof now, not in the hallway.
Coyle wanted to demonstrate an exterior door for our camera, but she was unable to get into the classroom she was trying to unlock and told those inside to take another exit. The drill was called due to a burst pipe in another part of the building. A school official told NCWLIFE that it was just a fire suppression line that burst from the cold and caused no damage.
This is Erin. Hannah's door is right here. Yep, this is Erin. Yes, we are having a fire drill right now. Okay. So. Okay, go out that door. Okay. I have to go handle the fire drill right now. Yeah.
Hey, Dustin, you copy?
When we were outside and you were trying to unlock the door,
Yeah.
what was the situation there? You just couldn't access it, or is it just never accessible?
No, the door is usually, I don't know, it froze. It was, I don't know, the doors for some reason wasn't opening. So she had activated it a different way.
But the kids were trying to get out that door for the fire drill.
Oh yeah, for sure.
After school, parents and bus drivers are affected by the building structures too. Eastmont Transportation Director Madeline Sones explained that at Lee and Kenroy, pickup has become a series of traffic jams due to buildings not being constructed for the influx of traffic they see every day.
Parent pickup at Lee Elementary is an interesting affair every day. The issue with that particular property is that where parents go to pick up is part of a bus ramp, and where the buses come out of their ramp and the parents go in to pick up children intersect. This causes a pretty big holdup because the ramp is not large enough for very many parents to pull in off the roadway. So we've got parents out in the street blocking the road and blocking buses leaving, blocking other traffic along Baker, and that's a pretty main thoroughfare there. And parents like to get there early to pick their kids up, so you've got a decent line of cars filling up this roadway and making it pretty impossible to traverse any direction around that school. So for Kenroy Elementary, it's been especially interesting the last couple of years because we have construction going on, which most people in the area have encountered at one point or another. That construction that's going on is for safe walking paths in and around our city, which is a fantastic improvement. But due to that construction, we've had to rearrange how we pick up and drop off at schools, both with our parents and with our transportation department buses. So what's happened at this point is we've had to relocate most of our parent pickup at that school to Kansas, North Kansas Avenue, which is on the east side of the property of Kenroy. Right now, in order to get all of the parents in there, they're lined up in rows of 2 cars at a time to do that. It also obstructs the newer bus ramp that is on that side of the property, so we're not able to use it. Our buses are currently using Jonathan, which is on the west side of that building, and that blocks a significant amount of that traffic through there because we're on an active roadway and not a bus ramp. So I don't see this problem decreasing. We're only going to have more students, more needs, and more people that we're trying to serve in our community. And the more people you have, the better your systems need to be to serve them all.
While Cascade, Kenroy, and Lee would see complete modernization of their schools, Rock Island Elementary would see a smaller scope of improvements, including a new roof and HVAC system, and safety upgrades like a single point of entry.
We do only allow our parents and our students to enter through the main building, but when you first walk in, you can go 2 different directions in the hallway instead of direct line to the office. I think it's going to be extremely important for us to really lock that down so that when we let people into our building, that they only can go to the office first before going into our our building. Because right now it's just a huge safety concern. You don't want to expect the unexpected, but you do. You want to prepare for anything, and right now you can't. There's just they can come get buzzed in and then they can go any direction. So for me, that's a huge safety concern as a teacher and as a parent with kids in the school.
Before safety measures required outside leading doors to remain shut during the school day, teachers at Rock Island would leave them open to get better air circulation. That was also sometimes how they would handle the odor of their drainage system.
You can definitely smell that when you're going down the hall sometimes. That's not a good smell.
It does fill the hallways, the classrooms, to the point where you're trying to close the doors. And again, you want to open your outside doors, but our windows don't open. So if we could, in the newer side of the building, we have the windows that you can just slide open, but here it would just be our doors, which comes back to that safety concern.
The HVAC problems at the other schools named in the bond are caused by the age of the buildings. At Rock Island, their problems stem from a manufacturer error.
There was a problem in the product design from the company, and now it's causing a lot of issues with our system. That's the reason why like my office, for instance, could be the coldest in the winter, hottest in the summer. But then you go to the classroom, same thing. Cold, you go to some of the newer classes or even the older ones, and they're just super cold sometimes in that morning. Summertime is hard because when they come back from the summer and we're in that fall area, but it's still hot out. The sun is directly on that side of the building, and what happens is that that's the hottest part of the day, and the teachers are getting all that heat.
When the weather quality wasn't good outside and we were inside, we could still smell so much of that smoke inside. You could see a haze even just walking through the school. And so, that does a lot of it come back to our HVAC system and just not being able to filter that clean air.
Especially surrounded by orchards. There's so many coming down, unfortunately, but there's a lot of burning happening in the fall and in the spring. Some of our classrooms, like I know there's over by the library, it really is enclosed. That smell is really strong, and it brings up allergies and whatnot for those kiddos, especially the kiddos with asthma. It's in here.
The mounting problems caused by the building conditions are not keeping Eastmont staff down. Each tour guide offered their praises for the district's maintenance staff, who keep the buildings as in shape as they can.
Grade classrooms didn't get heat. They're having issues with it. I know some of the bathrooms are completely frozen over, it feels like. One of the bathrooms isn't getting the hot water, so it's those kind of issues that even our maintenance department does an amazing job of getting out and helping us and servicing our needs. However, sometimes, if other schools are going through the exact same thing, especially those older schools, Cascade, Kenroy Lee, it could cause a trickle-down wait. Like they might beat us to the punchline, so we have to wait until they get theirs gets fixed, and then we can get ours fixed. So, but our maintenance department, I feel bad because they do a lot of work trying to keep this place up to date, and they're working hard around the clock.
For the Eastmont teachers, there is still a lot to be proud of, regardless of the building conditions.
I have such pride in our school, and you want the kids to have pride and ownership of it too. And then you come in, you have parents that visit, and I think it's just important too, appearance-wise, when you have peeling tile and you have paint that hasn't been refreshed, and just holes in the walls and random pipes coming out of the ceiling. And I'm sure they served a great purpose at one point in time, but now that we're here, we want to be a modern school, and we want to have that same. That buy-in for parents, and we want to know this is a good school, and just because we have peeling tile on our floors doesn't mean we're not a great school, and we are a really great school.